This conference will now be recorded.
Call the meeting for the General Services Committee to order. Today is Wednesday, June the 22nd, and it is 4:40. And can we have roll call
Counselor Oropesa,
here?
Counselor Moore, Counselor Halverson,
Here.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we want to welcome everybody that was able to show up for the meeting, and we want to make sure that we get you signed in for the record. And welcome to everybody that's on the virtual as well. And so we'll go with the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of May the 25th, 2022?
The agenda first.
Okay, I'll make a
I'm
motion that we,
I'm sorry, Councilor Halverson, I skipped the approval of the agenda. But if you'd
Okay.
like, you can do the approval of the agenda and the approval of the minutes at the same time.
okay. I make a motion that we approve the agenda from the last meeting and the approval of the minutes from the May 25th, 2022 meeting.
Approval of the agenda for this meeting, correct?
Oh, sorry, for this meeting. The approval of the agenda for today's meeting and the approval of the minutes from the May 25th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Sanchez, second. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. So we'll go to the first action item, or the only action item that we have is reconsideration and approval of the Roswell Volunteer Value Program implementation. And who's going to take that one?
Lay it.
All right. Okay. All right. I don't know if you guys can see that okay. The Volunteer Value Program, I have, just for the background, we have kind of reviewed this in the past, but I will go over it again. The city, because of the New Mexico anti-donation clause, has to set a cost for city use of facilities. Did we lose anybody? All good? Something that is fair and equitable and meets the New Mexico law. So that has been established by the city council. The city is another fact. These are facts that we took into consideration when coming up with the idea for the program. City is short-staffed. There are also events that need volunteers. There is an average of 60 job positions open most of the time within the city and various departments. The city also relies heavily on volunteers for events like our UFO festival or some of the other events that happen at the zoo, different projects that happen. Volunteers, just to clarify, volunteers would not be asked to fill a job position or take away any staff's position. They would just meet a need while we are filling those positions. Volunteers, fact 3, fill a need and their time has value. It is recognized that the independent wage sector value of volunteer time nationwide is $28.54. That is acceptable on grant reporting and on in-kind matches. For New Mexico in 2021, the independent wage sector set the value at $24.32. That value will rise, I'm sure, in 2022, which is when we plan to try to implement this plan. Hopefully. Fact 4, local groups often need to use city facilities, but they have a limited budget. They do have members who are willing to volunteer. It was by connecting these facts that we came up with the concept of the volunteer value program. The city needs extra hands. The fair value of volunteer time, the group's need for facility use, and it meets the required cost for facility use. All those things put together came up with the volunteer value program. I hope this is making sense.
Do you want me to do it for you?
No, it's okay. I'm just like, I've read this so many times now, how it works. The volunteers provide extra hands where they're needed in the city. The value of volunteer time is applied as credit toward the cost of the city facility for use by the groups. The program consists of simple forms that the group completes and returns to myself. The group will apply to participate, and a volunteer value account can be arranged by the city volunteer coordinator. Each participating group member that would like to volunteer would complete a City of Roswell volunteer application and be cleared for service. The group can then be assigned volunteer work that fills a need for the city. For example, when we have events at the Civic Center, they could be wait staff at the Civic Center. If we have a project at the zoo that needs extra help, for the groundskeeper, we can have support for him through our volunteer program. Volunteers complete the task or the work that they have assigned. They fill out a service form. The hours served are verified by the department staff who's overseeing that project or that event. Then they turn that form into me. The value of the volunteer hours are applied to the group account as credit in a dollar value at $25 per hour, which is right at the independent wage sector amount for New Mexico. When requesting use of a facility, the group will then use their earned credit to cover the cost of the facility use. The cost of the facility use is deducted from the volunteer value account. And the participating this is just some other little notes. The participating volunteers must be 18 or older. Individuals who are not group members can apply to participate and donate their hours to a group that is participating if they would like to. They would have to go through the process of being approved and doing tasks that are approved also. Individuals do not receive credit for their personal use. It is only for the use of the participating group. They are volunteering to benefit the group and not for personal benefit. The volunteer value program is a win-win. The city receives extra hands where they're needed. Group members provide service to the city. The group needs to use a facility, and the city provides the facility for the group's use in exchange for volunteer time credit. It meets a need for a city, and it meets the group's need for the community. Get my thing there. The volunteer value program has been reviewed by the General Services Committee, who voted on April 27th, 2022, 3-1 to approve the implementation of the program, but they did specify they would like the review of the program name. Since then, I wanted to bring it back to you all again because we have reviewed the name, and these are the findings. We received an email. I spoke with the insurance director of underwriting, received an email for her in regard to using the term volunteer in this program. She said, should we not use the term volunteer and instead use another that could be construed as an independent contractor? The NMTCA, which I looked for what that means, it's to do with the insurance carrier, will not allow us to extend coverages because independent contractors are excluded from consideration. So if we do not use the volunteer name in this program, they would not be covered under the insurance. Another concern was that volunteers should not receive any benefit or they're no longer volunteers. If you look at our guidelines here in the actual guidelines under some of the information under the group volunteer value hours verification form, there's an information that's in the middle that says that they're signing off. I verify that I have worked the hours as noted above and that I am donating the value of my volunteer service to the group. It says further on, I also acknowledge that I will receive no personal payment and no personal compensation for my volunteer service. The same thing is stated on the individual volunteer value hours verification, that they receive no personal benefits for this. It is the group that receives the benefits, so they are still actually volunteering their time for the benefit of the group, and they are receiving nothing. But it is actually allowed for volunteers to receive benefit. Some of the research that we have done, the Albuquerque Biopark provides the following benefits to volunteers. They are generally included. They get free admission. They also can come during daytime hours, and they get a discount for their food, and they get discount at the gift concession stand. New Mexico Parks provides the following benefits for volunteers. If a camp host volunteers to be there 24 hours each week, they receive free facility use and they can park there for free for the month. New Mexico Museum of National History actually states, besides personal satisfaction and rewarding life experiences, volunteer benefits include free admission, discount to NatureWorks gift store and the museum cafe, social activities, and special volunteer-only events. New Mexico Museum of Space and History says they have volunteer benefits, which is free admission for you and up to 3 guests to the museum, to the planetarium shows, theater, the planetarium itself for large format films, recognition pins, annual recognition dinner, and periodic potluck gatherings. So we've been able to find in New Mexico many of the different groups that do provide benefits even to the individuals. This would not be a benefit to the individual, it would be a benefit for their group. So with that in mind, we would like to present it again for consideration for approval for the volunteer value program as written to the General Services Committee. And I stand for questions.
Questions by committee?
I do. And thank you, Kathy. I know you worked really hard on this and it looks really great. I only had a question about the being 18. Is that for legal reasons or, because I know they're legally able to work at like 15. I didn't know if, why we chose 18.
Because the program is something that's new and we're just launching it, and because of it providing some benefit, we wanted to be really careful how we proceeded. And so we made it 18 or older to start with. If at some point in time we see it's really successful and there's potential to do it for those that are be employable age, then we might consider doing it and extending it to those 16 and older. But for the launch, we thought it might be smart just to keep it as adults. Now they can come, let's say the youth group want to participate in a marathon and pass out water at the event, and we feel like that's of value. The adults that are sponsoring that are supervising those young people, that adults' time could count towards for that club or that group. It's not that the youth group can't sign up, but for those that are working and actually serving like wait staff at the convention center or doing grounds work at the zoo, we feel like it needs to be some project that would take an adult to do for it to be starting it off with 18 or older.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from the audience have anything, comments? Anybody else? And if not, we're ready for Josh. Did you have something?
There's 3 on the chat.
I thought I heard there was something that came up.
That comment. You have to click on the comments.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the
little red circle.
I know.
Oh, you can't find the arrow.
Mouse won't go.
Yeah, the mouse is kind of.
We have 3 on there.
Hello, Juan.
Hey, Josh, you got the floor.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Well, no, I just was in the chat box, and I just was excited about how this was going to relate to our league. And I did get a comment back that said that we would have to make sure that our volunteers qualify and what have you. And I did look at the documents that it would take that we need to be filling out. But I just wanted to make sure that the process is kind of easy to understand and as user friendly as possible, so that we don't potentially, turn people away, because that's something that we're very proud of at Lions Hondo, is that, we have a lot of willing people that are ready to volunteer. So that was all I needed to say.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can you clarify
Yes.
whether teams, organization or sports teams?
What we do, what I look at whenever somebody signs up on the online website to be a volunteer, we send their name over to the Roswell Police Department with that information to check their background. That's a local arrest, if there's any arrests or any warrants, or if there's been any kind of concerning history with arrests in our area. I also check them against the sex offenders registry, which is open to the public. Anybody can look that up. I look that up there as well to make sure that they're not listed on the sex offenders registry. So those are two precautions I do just as a safety measure for the fact that we have things with the library, we have things with children, we have things with public, and it makes the city liable. So that's what we do for the background check in order to clear them for being able to volunteer.
But I think the question is,
It's quick.
does this pertain to sports organizations?
If an organization would like to, a club, a team, a church youth group, a church group, any kind of recognized group that would like to have their members do an event, work at an event so that they can use that credit towards rental of a facility, they can do that. Now, it's not just that people go out and do whatever project they want. They would need to clear it and make sure that the staff agree, like that, for example, that John at the zoo does want help out there and he needs extra hands for a project. And I can check with the different departments and see, is there a project that we have a group that wants to volunteer? What could they help at the convention center, and check with David, see what events are coming up that he might need extra wait staff or setting up chairs or setting up tables or things of that nature. So we would just follow up and find a place that they could work, ask them if they want to do that event, and then get them connected over there to volunteer. Each one fills out just a real simple form, the day they work, the hours they get there, and then the staff that's doing that event, David or Zachary, whoever's at the Civic Center, would then sign off on it, or John, whoever there, or his groundskeeper would sign off that they helped them those days, those hours. And then they bring that back to me.
Point of a
group?
organization.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
Blind condo.
With the lights on.
yes.
And I think the last time that we discussed it, the answer was no, that it couldn't be for sports.
Oh, for like, oh, okay, you mean like to use it for their rental? I will have to follow up.
It's not.
It's not a rental.
No,
It can't be towards the street.
No.
So explain how this would benefit a sports organization.
if they wanted to hold some activity, like at the park, they wanted to do a cookout for their team and use the pavilions and do something there, they could do that. If they wanted to go over to the Civic Center and hold some event at the Civic Center, a banquet or something for their members or for their parents of a sports team, they could do that. We're still trying to navigate. But last time we had that conversation about using it for the sports rentals, I believe Joe had mentioned that they were not going to start that at this time.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Josh?
So the hours that our volunteers are putting in at the ball fields to conduct the seasons would not qualify for this program?
No, they do not.
No.
So, and I think what he's talking about is the lining, the dragging.
That is
Separate service that I think.
that I think is, Joe was talking about, that is actually a separate service that they have already arranged that is apart from this project or this program. They already have something that they're getting credit for that for, if I understand correctly. Now, see, I don't know all the
This
workings
isn't
of how
in place.
Alex will give a presentation after this on it. That maybe
So
it'll.
that's already being credited. So that'd be like double dipping even. But does that make sense? Because I
Oh, yes,
believe
absolutely.
you're credited for some of that work.
Josh, you still have the floor if you want.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. Maybe I just jumped the gun and got a little too excited because Alex's presentation is probably going to pertain to my situation a little bit more. But I do thank you guys for the information.
Okay, do we have anybody else that's online that would like to speak on this issue? Hearing nobody, then I guess we're ready for a motion.
Do you want this to go to not the consent agenda, but the full council?
We don't mind consent, but it's up to you guys how, if you want to hear
Put
it.
it on consent. This is not a controversial.
Yeah, I don't mind consent either. Okay, I move that we put the reconsideration and approval of the Roswell Volunteer Value Program implementation onto the consent agenda to the next city council meeting in July.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Halverson. Councilor Sanchez, you want to second it? Okay, we got a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried, and it will go on consent.
Thank you so much.
Right.
The next one is, well, that's the only action item that we have. So the next item is going to be informational.
All right, I am here to present analysis and an update of sports tourism. We have a sports tourism sales rep manager, Sean Lewis, who helped put together this presentation. Just kind of to give you a little bit of history, what is sports tourism? It's a sports event participant, an event spectator, and an attendee at other sports attractions, such as meetings or conferences. It refers to that activity in which people are attracted to a particular location. Part of the process, a little bit of background. 2 years ago, right before COVID, we had sports tourism as a topic at a city council workshop in November. We came up with the strategy, got the council's input, and then had this presentation as part of that process. So this is just a little bit of background of self-evaluation of what we currently have to offer and what is available in Roswell. This is kind of what has been accomplished in the last years. Of course, with COVID, we had a few setbacks because we were not allowed to host any events. But what we've done is we've worked collaboratively with Recreation. Sean and Alex worked together. They've inventoried all of our fields. We've created marketing and sales collateral to promote Roswell as a sports destination. If you can see over here on the side, this is one of our one sheets. We also had training with the Sports Event and Tourism Association and did that, made a lot of contacts, had some great success with some of our partners in community cities like Las Cruces and Lubbock, which provided a lot of information for us. The other thing that we did was the SWOT analysis of what is our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as a community. A few strengths that we had is that we have a large amount of land to build and host larger events. Roswell is a central hub for travel. It's an ideal location for Southeast New Mexico and West Texas regional tournaments. We have the UFO brand, which is unique to our market and easy to market and attract business. Our weather is consistent and it allows later participation in some outdoor sports. Our weaknesses, adult softball and baseball fields require infrastructure repairs. The lack of number of fields for most regional cities that we have. So for example, for flag football, we have 2 large fields, but not more than that. The league's MOU system, it can make things a little bit complicated when scheduling events. Our city funding for adequate staffing for tournaments is not currently available, and Roswell will have to host smaller tournaments at this time. Opportunities, Roswell's proposed baseball complex would be a large attraction for sports tourism. The sports industry is energetic to get back out after COVID, according to the training and the research that was done at the ETA conference. We have new recreation staff eager and ready to support this event. And when I say that, it's Alex and Sean. That's it, that's the staff. So it's not a lot of staff, but we have 2 new blood, if you will. And we actually, Sean has submitted his resignation for a larger role and opportunity with the state. Numerous organizations that want to host events, that's an opportunity. We had just a new flag football tournament that came on. We have a 3 versus 3 soccer tournament that's coming that Sean and Alex have been working on. And then the opportunity really is a small regional tournament. We are not a big city like Dallas or, San Francisco or anything like that. Our marketing materials with the developing the strategy plan to operate, they're clean, they're consistent. It's something that we do a really good job at. Our facility maintenance plan to improve fields and based on analysis. So part of the process was to determine the field inventory and come up with a 5-year infrastructure improvement plan. which we've done. And then the other opportunity is the increased GRT and lodgers tax base from outside money or regional money, not coming from our local people. This is kind of an idea. Most cities, this is the plan, was the baseball plan. Most cities have an average of 12 baseball fields to accommodate large tournaments, 100 plus full-size teams. Complex would accommodate soccer and football, not just baseball and softball. So you would get a variety of sporting activities. The threats, however, is close locations have larger and better facilities such as Hobbs and Alamogordo and Lubbock. Their cities maintained their fields and had a really great plan and executed it. Seeking to bid for certain events just may be out of our budget. Of course, right now we just don't have the budget. Summer weather can be really hot, as we know. The Roswell reputation for sports has been low. And currently there's no staff to focus on the field's maintenance specific to tournaments. That's currently happening through parks and will happen through this position in collaboration with Alex through our 5-year plan. This is an idea of what our competitors are doing. So as you can see up here, this one is Lubbock. They have very nice green fields, inlay, Zeaplex. This is, I believe, Hobbs. Actually, this one is Hobbs up here, and this is Lubbock down here. They have nice canopy structures. They have open boxes. And then over here on the side is your Alamogordo complex. Most of our fields that we have here, if we're speaking just in baseball term, some just have 3, some only have 1 quad. Our largest one is the adult softball one. The current reality is kind of where we're at right now, which is in step 3 as we did an evaluation. For all sports, you can see the reality is because we have a long-term plan, we need to be realistic in what we can attract. It is not those 100 plus teams. We're looking at 11 versus 11 for soccer. That's not the reality. It's really the 3 versus 3 kind of soccer tournament that we can host. The other thing is right now we don't have all of the proper infrastructure to host a state tournament. When we're talking about whether that's the football field or the soccer fields or even the gymnasiums to accommodate a cheer competition or a volleyball competition. So the reality really is smaller tournaments and regional tournaments for Roswell. The hope, other avenues of sports tourism, which could include boxing events. It can include, like I said, volleyball, soccer, because we do have Cielo Grande, again, regional, more smaller events. The best attraction is building some tournaments from the ground up. An opportunity and a hope would be adding an additional team that would really focus on this, like we had previously had it in the past. And the best use of our facilities currently is Cielo Grande, focusing on soccer or a flag football type of sports tournaments until we can have a little bit more infrastructure. The other one is golf. We have a really great golf course, Nancy Lopez Golf Course, where that's probably our lowest hanging fruit and would make the most sense. So our next steps is kind of our, I'm going to move this over so I can see because these are really important, but I don't want to mess that up. How do I move that over? Come on.
Maybe, there you go.
It's just going really slow. Okay. Our next steps, where we're at, kind of what we'd like to do. So develop the structure to host our own external and community event in collaboration with the current associations. So in just a minute, you're going to hear from one of our partners, Alex Diaz. The position of sports tourism and Alex's role at recreation kind of go hand in hand. Our next step is working to implement that 5-year infrastructure plan for improvements. Last November, our team reached out to all of the associations asking what their needs are, and that helped us come up with this 5-year plan in preparation for each budget year, as well as inclusion on the ICIP list. So what we have here is Lions Hondo requested netting for the outfield. The New Optimus Little League requested the installation of new bleachers that they purchased. Styles Field replacing the shingles on the concession stand roof, fixing lights and light poles. Joe Bowman requested netting replacement. McVeigh Softball Complex requested light replacement. Wool Bowl softball fields requested light replacement, and then Cielo Grande is reseeding. So that is our next steps of where we're going here. Two big things. One is that structure of creating our own and developing our own, and also supporting those externals that want to come here, and then working on our infrastructure for all sporting infrastructure properties. And I will stand for any questions.
Questions from the committee?
No, I'm good, thank you.
You want this? Okay.
Anybody else? Anybody from the, that's online, do they have any questions that they would like to ask? And I guess hearing none, let me address a few things.
Okay.
When you're talking about tournaments, I think you're talking about overall tournaments, including baseball, softball, basketball, and a whole bit. My take is, I think before we start going forward, I think we need to have a proven record that we can attract those kind of tournaments. Baseball, I don't think you will attract those kind of tournaments. You won't attract those kind of tournaments with Little League. Because Little League is structured to the point where they won't have those kind of tournaments, open roster tournaments. You will with USSSA, but USSSA in Roswell is not strong. From my understanding is they have like, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 at the most travel teams. They don't even have an organization established here in Roswell. So, you know, my take is until we can prove that this is something that we need to invest in, then go ahead and do it. But those 3-on-3 tournaments like basketball, the 3-on-3 soccer, and those kind of tournaments are doable.
And that's what we're currently working on right now. I mean, we have a 3-on-3 soccer tournament that's coming. We just had the football one. So, and that's where we're starting at. And that's what we're recommending is we have to start small before we can get really big, because the reality is right now we can't host really big tournaments. And so hopefully by having these smaller ones, then we start collecting the data and giving you guys the information to make a decision. Are we going to have bigger ones? Are we going to support it with a team? Right now we're working on what we can currently do with the staffing and the funding that we do have.
Can we agree that baseball probably is out of the question? Baseball, Little League baseball, not USSSA.
We'd have to ask.
Because again, Little League is not structured to host those kind of tournaments. USSSA is, because USSSA will have open roster tournaments. And with USSSA, you can pick up a player from off the street as opposed to Little League. They have to be in the system in order to participate in their kind of tournaments. So the tournaments that are the extension of regular play. Because, I mean, they go through a process of city champions and then go into district into regionals, and then they go into the United States World Series. And from there, they go into the World Series, International World Series. And so they have a process. And so they start at a certain time and they finish by a certain time when the World Series are over. So their structure is not that they can bring in 100-team tournament to participate.
Mm.
So, and I want to make sure that the public understand that baseball, unless we're talking about USSSA or some other organization that I'm not aware of, because there used to be a Dixie League up in the eastern part of the states that also was a softball, baseball organization as well. But for all intended purposes, the ones that have grown up here in this part of the country, Little League has never been, and I don't think they will ever be, structured to be able to bring in those kind of tournaments. So we need to make sure that when we talk about tournaments, that we talk specific, or in my opinion, what organizations are we talking about? Are we talking about basketball? Are we talking about baseball? Are we talking about, those kind of things? Because it gives a false hope to the people from baseball, especially the ones that are associated with Little League, that we've gone through this presentation like 2 or 3 times with baseball, Little League baseball, that will cost, but the last amount that we heard of was $56 million for a 12 field complex. I mean, that would be nice to have, but the only ones that are going to use it are the teams here. Unless you're able to host a regional tournament, would be a great tournament. There'd be a lot of teams coming in, and district is not so big, but still.
Sure.
But those are once in 10 years, 20-year type of tournaments that you will have. So I think we need to be clear to the public of what kind of organizations are we talking about when we're talking about sports tourism.
Okay.
Anything else before we move on? Anybody from the that's joining us virtual? Josh, would you like to address this issue?
Well, sir, I mean, you said it exactly right. Like just perfectly, to be honest with you, Juan. It is, the Little League is just not structured, like you said, to have a big tournament like that just at any time during the year. And it is specific to this particular time of the year. And to actually get a tournament, a regional tournament, they're looking for more centrally located fields, such as Albuquerque, for instance, because it's kind of in the center of the state, making travel a little bit more convenient. And when it comes to so Little League is kind of out of the question, but as you stated, USSSA is that direction and is the way to make this particular project happen when it comes to baseball. And I'll just put this out there that we are at Lions Hondo looking at, those options to see what those particular routes could offer the kids of our community. But yes, as far as Little League is concerned, sir, you hit the nail on the head.
Josh, are you still the president for Lions Hondo?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm learning the hard knocks this year, sir.
Let me ask you a question that in your organization, are you able to be USSSA as well as Little League?
So it they're obviously two different sanctioning bodies, and the rules and some of the ways that the Little League operates kind of collide with the way that the USSSA operates. Like you said, Juan, you hit it again on the head. The way you can pull players in, the way that you have to formulate teams is way different from Little League to USSSA. And to be honest with you, USSSA is actually a little more lenient and offers a lot more flexibility when it comes to putting on events like a big baseball tournament. But it's just not very prominent here in Roswell yet. And I can't say that it's not where the town would like to go. It's just not here yet. And like I said, these are options that we are, as a board, voting to look at and look into. And I've been in contact with Alex. And so, yes, we are looking at some of those options, and I'll have more information the next time you guys have this meeting, and I'll be on.
Okay, well, and the reason that I'm asking you that question is because you probably know it better than I do. There's only, what, 6, 7 USSSA travel teams?
Now they're sporadic, Mr. Oropesa, throughout the city, and I mean, and it might not be 6 or 7, but I'm telling you, it's not the draw just yet, where we would want it to have a giant facility just for that. Even if it's 10 teams, that's still not the number that we're looking at in order to put that kind of money into a facility just to accommodate tournaments. So yeah, I mean, it could be 6 to 10 to 12 teams, but it definitely isn't a high enough number to grow in that specific direction just yet.
Well, and the reason that I'm asking you the question is because the majority of those kids that participate in USSSA, the majority of them belong to either NUNAP or Alliance Handle, right?
Absolutely. They have, I would call it a parent league, if you will. Like everybody plays season with like league during this time, which was from March to July or around August, when you take into consideration the All-Stars tournaments, which is what we're currently getting prepared for. And after, that time is set aside for Little League. And then everything else outside of this particular time for baseball usually reverts to the USSSA, where teams come together and kind of hit tournaments here, hit tournaments there in the surrounding areas.
Okay, anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you guys for addressing it.
And now we're going to go to Alex, who is going to give his presentation.
All right, so before I get going, I do want to share an update on information from the packet. So Josh Torres, the president from Lions Hondo, called me after everything was posted, and we noticed that his report for self-reporting numbers for 2021 and 2022 was accidentally inflated. So it's the Lions Hondo 2021 and 2022 participation numbers that change. And I'll go over that in the presentation, but I did want to provide an update. So for those that don't know me, my name's Alex. I am the recreation manager for the city. And at the request of this committee, I'm going to be going over how we formulate our structure for creating agreements with our leagues. So some things that are going to be in the presentation is how did we get where we are now with creating agreements? How are youth sports trending in Roswell specifically? Are we going up? Are we going down? And where are we going to be in the future? Historical data, financials, and participation data by league association. And then what are current processes for creating these agreements, how we create the fees, and the sweat equity process that has been brought up. So this is everything I'm going to cover. So bear with me as we go through it. So a little bit of background on how we got here. Now, please keep in mind, I started in my position in January, so I did some digging to find how we actually got here. That was not here for a lot of it. But prior to 2020, we had a per player fee per league. So if we had a youth league, we were charging $5 a player. If we had an adult league, we were charging $10 a player. At this committee's meeting in September of 2019, it was discovered that some leagues were actually paying the fee and some were not. So in an effort to make things fair, city manager implemented a suspension on all player fees at that time. And our parks department actually went out and assessed each individual field to see what the true cost of maintaining a field is. And then that number was used to create what we're using today as our agreement, our MOU and sweat equity process. And that started to take effect last year, January of 2021. So a little bit about how we're trending. As you can tell, COVID affected overall participation numbers a bit. But here's where we are today. And what I want to show and what I want to let everyone know is this overall number for 2022 doesn't include tackle football, doesn't include fall baseball, and it doesn't include fall soccer. So the way we're trending, I believe we are going to have more kids playing youth sports in Roswell this year than we have in the last 5 years.
You said fall baseball.
Fall ball. So Noon Optimist does a fall baseball, Little League. Yeah, they do Little League in the fall as well as a spring.
Is that the USSSA part of it or?
No. This is the Noon Optimist League. They do, they reserve our fields in the fall and they do a league just like in the spring. So what they're finishing up now, they do similar process in the fall and they start that around September, October timeframe.
So it's just city.
Just city kids, correct.
Okay.
So here are the numbers by league association in terms of participation. Again, 2022 does not include the conclusion of the year, but it shows that we're trending back up. Again, the correction is at 264 on the Lions Honda one. These were all self-reported numbers by the league presidents themselves. Now, here's some financial historical data. Like I mentioned, we realized in September of 2019 that some leagues were paying, some were not. Everything prior to 2020 is an estimate based on Resolution 1836 where the player fees were mentioned. And that's just because of a change in accounting software. It was a little hard to go that far back. 2021 and 2022 are actual numbers based off of those leagues' MOU agreements. So what I really want to focus on is how do we come up with these numbers and how do we create an agreement with the league? And here are the basic steps. So we have an initial meeting with the league president. And at this meeting, we determine how long is the league going to use the fields that they're on. And then we talk about and we share what the annual field maintenance is. From that information, we draft an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and we send it to our legal department for review. Our legal department approves it, and then we call the league president back so they can sign the agreement and they provide us with a copy of their insurance that it lists the city of Roswell as additionally insured. Then signed copies get sent back to legal for full execution. Now, I think what's very much of interest is how we actually come up with the fee. So here's our basic formula, and I'll walk through as if we were creating an agreement. So we take the annual field maintenance cost that was created in that field analysis from 2019. So whatever that annual fee is, we divide it by 12 months. Then we multiply that number by the length of time that the league is going to use it. And then we apply a 30% recovery. So we take Poe corn. That analysis showed us that it cost the city $38,000 to maintain Poe corn. We divide that by 12, that gives us about $3,000. Then we take 3,000 by the period. So in this case, it's 2 months. That gives us 6,000, 6,400. Then we take that number and we apply our 30% recovery, which gives us a fee of a little shy of 2,000. So this is the formula. From this point, the league itself has a couple options. Right? They could either pay us the fee, or they can conduct sweat equity to reduce their fee. Most of our leagues opt to do mowing. So in this case, if this league that was using Pocorn said, hey, we'll mow the grass while we're out there 2 months, they would get credit for $1,987, which is more than the actual fee. So the agreement would show a $0 fee for them, as long as they're doing the mowing. So basically, the reason we have the process we have now is because we discovered in 2019 that we had an unfair advantage for some leagues. So this was our way as a city to create something that was fair and equitable. Our current process is based on the annual field maintenance of each field. It's not just a number that we make up. And all league associations are provided the same opportunity. They could either pay us or they can provide sweat equity on the field, which in turn creates the cost savings for the city. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions by the committee?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, any questions from the public? Questions from anybody on online? Josh, you have any questions?
No, sir, he covered it pretty well. And this has been a really, really beneficial deal for us, to be real honest with you, Mr. Oropesa. And we really appreciate Alex's efforts and the way he's worked with us and really listened to our needs as leagues. And it's been just a great couple of years, especially this last year. The city's done an excellent job of supporting us, and I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Josh.
Anything else? If not, thank you, Alex.
Oh, you went easy on me. Thank you.
This is where we're at.
Okay, we are on chair comments, reports, and announcements.
Does the committee members, would they like a presentation for the reports that are in our packet, or would you all right if we just review them ourselves?
I'm okay reviewing them myself.
Okay, are you okay with that, Sabino? Okay, I do have a couple of questions on the zoo. And I know, what's his name, Mike?
John,
John is not here.
I can try to answer them for you, Counselor.
Okay. Generally, the operating hours for the zoo, or at least what I've seen on posted, is from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so now that it's a summer, are those hours going to change?
No,
Why?
we do not have adequate staffing to increase hours of operation. Currently, we have 8 open positions that we have still not been able to fill. It's not the lack of trying. We're actively recruiting. We've participated in job fairs.
But I guess from my perspective is I'm looking at the park itself. I'm not talking about the zoo. I'm talking about the being able to use the park itself. Because you do, I mean, the zoo is fenced off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I have a hard time understanding why we can't open up the zoo, I mean, the park till sundown, like it used to be.
Because we don't have the staff to stay to keep the gates open.
I hate to argue with you.
No, I mean, I'm just being honest, like,
Yeah,
we don't
but,
have a person to keep that gate open to allow, when the sun sets at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, we don't have a person that can be there 12 hours a day,
but you do have them till 5.
till 4:30-ish.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time closing down the park when it can be used by the public, because it used to be. And this is the only park that is locked down at 4 o'clock. All the other ones are open, even Loveless across the street. But Loveless doesn't have the playground equipment that Spring River does.
Mhm.
And so that's the reason that I'm saying that I'm having a hard time understanding. And I know what you're telling me, but I don't see the staff being an issue to be able to extend the hours or even open earlier.
I think it's more of a security issue for our animals if we have the space open to the public and then don't have any staff in the zoo area if public goes into that. I think that's more of a safety precaution on our part, but it is definitely something that we could look at when we do the reentry plan that I know is forthcoming to this committee and to council.
Okay. And then the other one is, I know we talked about this the last time, to try and get an estimate of what it will take to redo the boundaries of the zoo.
That's part of what I was talking about. Yep. Mhm.
You know, I pass by there on a daily basis. And I noticed that the train is out there in the middle of the track. It used to be, they used to store it in that little tunnel. So what happened to the tunnel? How come it's
I
not?
can ask. I don't know. I can follow up with John on that when he returns. We'll make a note of that.
And I don't know if you know the answer to this or not,
Okay.
but the Christmas Railway,
Mhm.
do they intend in having the event this year?
My understanding, they have not formally said they are having the event at the zoo this year. I think they're having the event, but we have not, to my knowledge. I have to check with John and get back to you on that one. So let me make a note of that. Imagine they would have the event. I just don't know if it's going to be.
Whether it's going to be the city's sponsor or not.
Let me follow up on that one.
If they do, do we have a financial report from them from the time that they started back in 2018?
I believe there are some reports, yes. I would need to check back on that one, what we have. I only have from last March when I started overseeing the zoo.
Because I was going over the contract that was signed originally. And the contract has language in there that says that every year there will be a 3% CPI. And based on some of the information that we have gotten, that has not been the case. I don't even know if we even verified what the numbers were to begin with, other than accept the business information.
Okay.
And I know well, you saw the email that I sent.
And thank you for including me. I appreciate that. But I can follow up with John when he returns as well as out.
And if indeed they're not going to have the event this year, do they still store their stuff at the at the park. Because if they do, we should be charging them.
Okay, I will find that out too. Got it.
Those are the only questions that I have as far as, but the one that I'm really interested in is the effect of redesigning the
The zoo. I got that one.
zoo and what kind of effect it's going to have impact, whether financially or otherwise.
Yes.
Anybody else have any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anybody here have any other comments? Does anybody here have any comments at all? I think that's the end of our agenda. So it's up for public participation if anybody. Rita,
Hi,
is that you?
Juan.
Hi, Rita.
This is Rita Kane Dorhofer, very narrow, unstriped Chicago Cubs mailbox, Mark Road. I was out at McBride Cemetery on Monday for a funeral. The Honor Guard and the Patriot Guard get out there about an hour before the service starts. I was asked by a little lady who came if there was a bathroom. And you know, we talk about toilets all the time. It's near and dear to my heart. I told her that no, there is not a bathroom. There's not even a porta potty at the McBride. She would have to get into her car and travel as fast as she possibly could to the office. I know there's 2 girls in there now. I don't know if you close the office down for lunch hour like it was before you had the other girl in there. But I think something needs to be done. You have all this money. You're going to build these nice pavilions so there's shade for the people, but there is no porta potty. Is that on the agenda?
For the
That's my
cemetery? Are you talking about the
For the
cemetery?
cemetery. Yes,
Not
it's
that I know
under
of,
park.
but not to my knowledge, but we can always put it on there.
Well, the thing is, I missed the parks meeting. The infrastructure meeting was canceled, and I thought I would go to all of the meetings and talk about toilets.
And I do agree with you. But again, the toilets is an issue that it's, from what I've been told, is that it's a very hard thing to try and keep it clean and try to keep people from doing things that they're not supposed to be doing in the bathroom. But nevertheless, but nevertheless, that doesn't mean that we can't address it.
Right, and don't forget the cemetery is locked up at night. They don't want any of the residents there leaving, so they lock them in at night.
Well, what I can do is I can get a hold of Jack Ferguson and ask him to put that on the agenda for their next meeting and see
Okay.
where that conversation goes.
Okay, thank you, Juan. You have a good night.
You too, thank you. Anybody else that's on virtual? And if not, I guess you just came in, so,
Cool. I'll watch it online later. Rewatch everything.
okay. And if not, if there's no objections, this meeting will be adjourned at 5:43.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.